Uh, Thank you everyone for your time today. Really excited to be on the stage and sharing it with Dan. Just a quick introduction. My name is Didi Shum, part of the Adsmovil team as Senior Sales Director. Quick introduction of who we are. If you guys are not familiar, we are a certified minority-owned business that is catered to providing brands with omni-channel solution for the US Hispanic market. It's about going beyond, like Jen mentioned, the user experience, right? Tapping into them outside of just their home and their space, but following them through the whole journey as a consumer, and how can we tap into those different passion points and touch points. So that's what we do, and DEI is something that we are motivated and is part of our core mission. And of course, Dan Towriss here today. Quick introduction for everyone. He has over 25-year experience in the insurance industry as a veteran and have taken a lot of business, leading up and growing them. So excited to have you on board here with us. Can you just give us a little introduction, tell us about yourself, what motivates you, what's your passion?
Sure. Before I get started, just want to thank Lily for the event today, and certainly Everfi. I think as the last speaker was talking about, Rob, we're one of the brands that utilize Everfi from a sports and education platform in schools, and we love the relationship we have with them. That's been tremendous. So so thank you for having me here today. Grew up in the insurance business. I'm an actuary by training, so as they like to say, the extroverted actuary stares at your shoes instead of their own from that standpoint. But and so I thought I was happy with the career of building financial models, doing transactions and things like that. And then an opportunity came up to grow and start a business, and I learned that I like to build and grow businesses. And so seeing the potential of bringing teams of people together to and really trying to find a different way, to attack business problems and to make a difference in society, I think that's what motivates me, and I think that's a big part of why we're different as an organization.
Awesome, thank you so much. And you have a very impressive resume. I mean, look at all the companies you have built. And speaking of the company that you currently are part of, CEO of for Group 1001, there are many different subsidiaries and business that you oversee. Could you talk us a little about different core products that are for each of those business, and what are the brand purpose of each of them?
Yeah, so Group 1001 is a financial services company. We have two main verticals within the group. We have our portfolio of insurance companies, which would include Gainbridge, Delaware Life, ClearSpring. And then as a second vertical, we have our capital and finance business, where we, again, it's a lending business, investing capital for financial strength within the group. And so those really are our two main verticals. But to kind of understand what Group 1001 is about is really to look at our beginning. So back in coming out of the financial crisis of 2008, we got our start in 2009, and that opportunity was really just me and a handful of people. We had a shell company and 30 insurance licenses, and we tried to figure out how to build a business from there. And so, in the early days, we were in this acquisition phase. Why was that important? Our goal at that time was to revitalize, recapitalize, and rebrand businesses that were struggling or had failed through the financial crisis. There was actually one here locally. And so that really became this mission of kind of putting companies back in business, polishing off the brand and making it better than it ever was, from that point of view. And then coming out of that acquisition phase, to grow, it was how do you assimilate all of that into, a single financial institution unified under, kind of a single purpose and focus. And so that really is the origin story of Group 1001. And so we went from that small group of companies to over a $60 billion balance sheet today, really just trying to find a way to, have the maximum impact both for business and, and in the community.
Awesome, thank you so much. I know that we're in the weekend of Indy 500, and I landed yesterday into the airport. It's my first time here in the city, but I can't just stress enough how much pride and excitement the cities have filled for this event, for this weekend. I'm so glad to be here. I know you have a sneak peek for the audience today, and there'll be an ad that you'll be running for Indy 500. So, team, can you just take it away and show us the spot?
Maybe they're waiting for me to click on it. Oh, here we go. Got it. Okay.
Sometimes it's not the moment. It's the moment before the moment. The moment you make a choice. The moment you take control. The moment only you can own. Gainbridge lets you invest on your terms. So you're not only in charge of this moment, but all the moments to come. Start investing now at Gainbridge.io.
Sorry.
I'll say a little bit behind the moment before. I think when we're advertising a new product, or really what Gainbridge is about, it's really trying to increase access. If you think about how you've mostly seen insurance companies advertise or financial services companies, they're looking for the high net worth sale. You'll see it advertised in golf or a sports desk or something like that. And really what Gainbridge is about is increasing access to financial products. Being an online platform, that means the products have to be simple and straightforward. And so it's trying to create the greatest return at the lowest cost for the consumer. And what the commercial is trying to do is just to capture that the emotion right before you have to take the step forward. Obviously, you can feel what the diver feels, or the person going into a job interview that's twiddling their fingers and thinking about what's to happen. How I feel before coming up here, and then you take the step up the stairs, and then you just you take that step forward and you do that thing, and you make that decision for yourself. And so Gainbridge is trying to capture that emotion to really have an integrated approach in putting the brand forward, and not just something that's humorous or pithy from that point of view, but something that really kind of connects to the consumer about what we're about from that standpoint.
I mean, you really touched me on this commercial spot. Growing up around sports and being an athlete throughout college, I mean, I was a nervous wreck coming on stage, but these are the moments that you were able to portray in the spots, and I think I really can connect to the consumers and really engage them and drive them through the sites, right? That call to action really shows in that spot. Of course, our fire chat is called Why Motorsports, so let's get into it. How do you leverage motorsports with your business, and how did you get into it?
It's an interesting story how we got into motorsports. So as the business was growing here locally, I decided that we needed to do more in the community than sponsor the reading hour at the local library. And so when Greg Ballard had finished up his term as mayor in Indianapolis, we started to work on what could we actually do in the community. And together we came up with the idea of forming the Indy Women in Tech Foundation, which was really to help women and girls of all ages to choose careers in STEM, to have education programs for women getting back into the workforce, and things like that. And the programs were very successful and doing great. And so we then looked at the LPGA as a way to shine a spotlight on the Women in Tech Foundation. Doesn't sound like I'm anywhere near motorsports yet. I'm getting a promise. So we decided to bring an LPGA tournament to Indianapolis. We had it at the Brickyard. So the Pete Dye course at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. 4 holes are inside the track, and it was an amazing event, to have that here from that standpoint. Of the year that we're going to have the first tournament, the tournament's going to be in August. That April, I get a cold call from a race car driver. It's like, hello, and so I said, look, I got to start this call off. I don't sponsor race cars, and I don't sponsor race car drivers, but go ahead, tell me your story. And so as we went through the story with Zach Veach was the driver. You may or may not know that. But Zach had an amazing story. He was bullied as a kid, and he just talked about how he overcame that. And this was his moment to go to the big race. Had never been before. He had a deal with AJ Foyt to race, and we were right up against the last minute. So I told Zach, look, it's Friday. I'm going to work on this over the weekend, and I'm going to call you Monday and tell you yes or no. And over the weekend, working with the LPGA commissioner at the time, Mike Wan, we decided, what if the golf tournament was the sponsor of the race car? I really wanted to find a way to connect the racing community and the golfing community, given that the events were already kind of commingled, from that point of view. So everybody loved the idea. And so the first sponsorship was the Indy Women in Tech Championship presented by Guggenheim Race Car. Can you imagine the driver having to say that? So I called Zach that Monday morning, and it's like, hey, kid, you're going to the show. And you could imagine all that happened there. Then I'm talking to Larry Foyt, and I said, I don't really know much about motorsports at this point. All I know is I want that car on the golf course in August. And he said, deal. And then a few days after the Indy 500, Michael Andretti called up and said, and I'd never spoken to Michael before, so my assistant's like, Michael Andretti's on the phone. And I was like, okay. So I was like, hello, Michael. Congratulations winning 3 of the last 4 Indy 500s. What do you want with me? Remember, I'm an actuary, like the numbers guy. And so he said, I want Zach back on my team. He grew up in the lower series with us. Why don't you come in and let's talk about it? And the thing I remember from that day was this place is going to feel like family. And really from there, the rest is history. We have been a longtime sponsor of the number 26 car for Andretti Autosport. We then became the presenting sponsor for the Indy 500. And even now, not through the insurance business, but through the capital investment side, we actually have an investment in motorsports. But now I'll answer your question. Why motorsports? We really wanted to find a bold, innovative way, to market the brand. And racing was bold. A lot of insurance companies their branding is blue. It's in very conservative ways that they're branding. Again, see a lot of golf and things like that. And we really wanted something that would attract a younger audience, that was bold and innovative, that aligned with what the brand stood for from that point of view. And motorsports brought that to us.
First thing first, I feel like after this weekend, I might have to become a racer so I can get more success on cold callings. But amazing. I mean, I landed on the airport, and on my way, on my Uber into the downtown, all I can see is Gainbridge everywhere. So you guys have done a tremendous success of exposing the marketplace to the brand. And I think that you really have dived deep into the city itself. So on top of that topic, I know you have been really involved with local initiatives and has really made an impact for the city. Can you talk a little bit more about it for everyone who aren't aware of the local initiatives you have done?
Yeah, well, so when we think about our brand, in terms of like what's the positioning, what's the one thing I want you to take away from what we're about? Empowerment. In one word, it's empowerment. I think that's what the commercial that we watched on One Up was about, was you taking control of that decision and fighting through the emotion. Somebody didn't have to walk you through and guide you through that. You did it. It's empowerment. And so that's what Gainbridge stands for. But it's not just about products and consumers. It's about employees, and it's about the community. And so, again, finding ways to continue to give back. And so we saw opportunities using sports and education as a tremendous platform to do things like Indie Women in Tech, the educational programs we do through EverFi. We work with the Cal Ripken Senior Foundation to build youth development parks and STEM centers all across the country from that standpoint. And we're also involved with RISE, which is a social justice platform that aims to end systemic racism in society. Yeah. And so in working in all those platforms, we're really just trying to both be a successful organization, but then also just be about carrying that empowerment theme, to the places where we work and live. Yeah, and you also partner with the Billie Jean Cup as well. So these are amazing things that you really... Yeah, we announced 2 events last year. It was the Annika presented by Gainbridge, which is an LPGA event, kind of a legacy tournament for her, like Arnold Palmer has with Bay Hill. And then the Billie Jean King Cup, which is the World Cup of women's tennis. Yes. And so to have 2 of the greats of all time, in the respective sports, kind of in the repertoire, is great. And then also to be able to look at our split between men and women's sports. We have almost 40% of our sponsorships go towards women's professional sports, which is something that we're pretty proud of. Yeah. Oh, awesome. Amazing. Yes. Yes, sir. On the topic of diversity, I know that you're also a partner of Rev Racing. For those who aren't familiar with Rev Racing, it's a diversity program for NASCAR. It's such an amazing initiative that you're tapping into this. Can you tell us how did you get involved, and how are you using this platform to push forward the agenda? Yeah, I mean, I think everything starts with relationships, and Rev Racing is about my relationship with Max Siegel, also Indianapolis native. He's the CEO of U.S. Track and Field and has a long storied history in racing in NASCAR with Dale Earnhardt Jr., the family, all the things throughout the years. And so Max has been using his platform to create opportunities for minority drivers to move up. And so once Max started to talk to me about what he was doing with Rev Racing, it was like, how do we get involved? And so we first got involved with Rev Racing through the ARCA series, and then most recently partnering with Chevrolet to sponsor Nick Sanchez in the Gainbridge through the Craftsman Truck Series with the Gainbridge truck there. And so that's been exciting to see. Nick's had an amazing year, and I think he has real potential to move up to the Cup Series, in the NASCAR world. And so the fact that we could play some role in that to help Nick along the way is pretty special.
Yeah, hopefully you guys can make history down the line, and looking forward to that. Talking a little bit about Gainbridge, I think that it was very interesting for me because it's one of the business that has more of a B2C business model where you're advertising to the consumer directly and driving that call action, right? So for everyone who's not familiar with Gainbridge, it's a taking this from your mission statement and from your website, so I don't get it wrong. It's a self-managed, innovative digital platform to help people grow their savings over time, right? So it's a product that I've spoken to Mike, that is more of targeting to the younger generation, and we all know that is the power of the future, right? Tapping into the younger generation, but how do we do that? So can you give us a little bit insight of how Gainbridge is going to change the future of investing, and how do you approach reaching those younger generations to drive growth? Yeah,
so we really look at it from a holistic approach. I think starting with control and access. Control for you as the user, and then access across. So to be able to bring products that normally a person would have to have significant assets for to have a product that strong, and to be able to make it to where you could invest in very small denominations for as low as $1,000. Is something that's innovative in its own way by increasing the access from that standpoint. But then Gainbridge also wants to be able to to demonstrate the integrity that it has, that it can deliver on the promises made. So through financial strength, through great customer service, and all the pieces there. But then lastly, that Gainbridge cares about the things that you care about as a consumer. I think that younger generation is going to look at companies and hold them to a higher standard and say, you can't just be good at what you're offering me, either at service or product, but I want to know that you care about the things that I care about, which are community and people, diversity and inclusion, opportunities for all, meritocracy, all the things, integrity. And so to be able to have that be not just a corporate slogan, but for it to really be a part of the DNA of Gainbridge, really Group 1001 as an entire ecosystem from that standpoint. And so that's really what Gainbridge is trying to do from a holistic standpoint, to position itself to be a brand for the future.
Yeah, I mean, you sold me on the spot, so. But I totally agree. I think for the younger generation, also including myself, I think the most important thing that we try to strive for is freedom, financial freedom. And I think the first role to that, or the first step, is financial control. And that's allowing ourselves to be able to tap into a business, working with Gainbridge, a company like Gainbridge, to be able to have a learning experience, right? That's the part of the things that really attracts younger generations. So I think that your platform and your business really on a great path into great success, and I'm really looking forward to all the other things that you guys are going to tap into. Are coming to a close we're going to open to the audience, but I do have a question.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the crowd is really excited to hear about this one too, but your partnership with Andretti and F1 that you have recently announced, one of my personal favorites. So can you tell us a little bit more about that and where that partnership is going to take us?
I hope it's going to take us to the grid. So Michael and I have been at this for a while. If you follow the story, F1 is a challenge to break into. It's very,
yes,
I'll say Eurocentric, but or closed. They're very happy with themselves, at the moment. But there's a real opportunity for an American team, and the Andretti legacy. What Mario stood for as a 1978 world champion in F1. Michael's history there, and then back in January this year, we announced our partnership with Cadillac. And so now you're bringing General Motors into the mix, and so you have this Andretti Cadillac initiative, which is just a powerhouse in terms of racing legacy, but also in terms of what it's doing from a future and forward-looking standpoint. F1 is looking to be carbon neutral by 2030, and a lot of the things that Andretti is doing as a race team, what Cadillac or General Motors more broadly are doing in those areas, are already advancing the ball in terms of getting to that carbon neutral footprint. And so there's a lot of ways that this team is going to add value to Formula One and be a leader in a lot of ways, both we hope on the track, in the paddock, But even in the boardroom and in the communities as well, like we'll take these same culture of giving back of, the culture within the team, the connection to the community, and things like that to really, as well as environmental issues, of really trying to be that team that people look to for the future that someone can be proud of.
Very interesting, very interesting. And of course, I think every moderator likes this question, what's next? What's next for you? What's next for all your?
Well, I think Gainbridge is just getting started.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I think as we continue to add products out there and, and then really looking at the data, what that'll tell us in terms of what, customers want and really trying to build the products that people most want. I think a lot of times, again, historically, especially when there's a sales process, a commission sales process, someone's trying to tell you what you need.
Right.
In this case, we want to educate you and provide you access to what you want, what you think you need from that standpoint, but in a way that's clearly understood, trusted, and it's going to work out, in the long run. And so as we continue to add products so that someone wants to take more market risk, they want more guarantees, they want taxable, non-taxable, or deferred tax, I should say, in that sense, we want to be able to offer and check every box that a future investor would be looking for, again, to give you all the controls that you would need.
Appreciate it, and thank you so much for your time. So we have a few minutes left, but want to open up to the audience who might have questions. Oh, no? Okay. Whoops, sorry, I took up all the time today. Next time.
Questions, I have no answer.
Deep questions, though. Thank you so much, guys.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.